Are you still playing in a 1QB Dynasty League? Well, we have got you covered. It's not all about Superflex. We're going to talk you through a 1QB mock draft of the rookies ahead of this year's draft so you can understand ADP and who should be drafting where. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Sanctuary. That is right, we are going old school. We're going 1QB rookie mock, and I'm joined by not one but two phenomenal Dynasty V experts who are going to walk through this mock with me. Of course, first of all, I'm joined by Russ, or as you know him, probably Dynasty Outhouse. Russ, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastically. I don't know about your next guest, but I was not made aware that this was a multi-guest situation. And, you know, I'm not hurt to say, but, you know, I'm still happy to be here. How about that? Still happy to be here.
That's perfect. What we'll do, Russ, we'll get you on at some point again in the off season, and we'll give you your own show and make it all about you. But as Russ mentioned, I've also got another guest, Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. You know, on the other hand, I didn't know about it either, Russ, but I was pleasantly surprised to be recording our third show together in 3 days. I know two of them happened in one day.
There was 2 weeks in between.
Sorry, there was multiple weeks between those shows, right? Yeah, so I didn't know either, but it was a pleasant surprise. So I'm happy to be here with Russ.
Good. Well, good to hear we're all getting along so well. We're going to dive straight into to the rookie mock. Just for pure ease, I'm at the top of the screen. I'm going to take the 101 because neither Russ or Matt wanted it. Probably shouldn't come as any great surprise. I'm going to take Marvin Harrison. It is close for me. I've kind of got him 1A, 1B with another wide receiver, but I think big-bodied, great route runner, and I think I've got very few questions about him. Russ, you're up at the 102. Is it a clear Marvin Harrison at 1 for you, or do you think there's some argument for somebody else there?
I am on board with it should be Marvin Harrison. I've gotten to the point where, you know, if you like someone else better, cool. That's fine. Like, to me, it's there's different players that do things differently, but that doesn't mean anyone's better than the other one. To me, I am absolutely give me Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1. He's everything I want. You know, I still long for those days of the real X-type receivers, and Marvin Harrison is our step back to that. So I'm here for that.
It feels like a good class for it. We've got seven good prospects that are over 6 foot. Like we've got a few X's in this class we've been thirsting for them for the last couple. But you're now up at the 102. Who are you going here?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the guy that's not your prototypical X, and I'm going to go with Malik Nabers. This is my order, you know, the 1-2. Malik Nabers is just so good. And he is that guy that will get open on every level, will be able to make the catch at every level. We don't know where they're going to end up, but you're going to hope that they're going to put them on a team where they feel that he is the guy, because he should be, can be, will be if they let him be.
No, I completely agree. And Matt, it feels like in NFL circles, there's a lot of talk about these potential elite 3 wide receivers could come off the board in any order. In fantasy and dynasty circles, it feels like everybody's got an elite 2. Do you view it as a teardrop after those 2, or do you think somebody else deserves to be in the conversation?
Yeah, you know, I did think it was a clear top 2 with Odunze coming in 3rd. But the more I think about it, like, all 3 of these guys are just so good, and to pretend that we know which of the 3 are going to be the better NFL player and the better fantasy player is maybe folly. You know, I think Marvin Harrison is and this feels weird to say, like, I don't mean safe as like a negative term. I just feel like he's the safest of the 3 projects. We have 2 years of elite production from him. 1 year with a quarterback that maybe is not going to be an NFL quarterback. So, and then Odunze, he's just so good with his size and boxing out, and like he's the guy. If of these three, if there's a contested catch to be had, in the end zone on 3rd and 11 or something, Rome is the one I want there. And then Malik Nabers, he's like the one. I think he does certain things better than both of them as well. I think he's the best of the three in yards after catch ability and instinctiveness as a route runner and creativeness as a runner and all that kind of stuff. So I did have the two Harrison and Nabers like definitely above Odunze, but at this point, especially after listening to wide receiver gurus, so to speak, like Matt Harmon and things like that, like it seems like Rome is probably on the same level as those three, and it's going to come down to how you feel about which of the aspects of those players that you like the best, and then obviously team fit I think is going to be important as well. If for some reason Harrison goes to the Patriots, we're still going to be excited about him, but I'm probably not going to be quite as excited about him.
Yeah, that feels like a damning indictment to basically anyone that ends up with the Patriots this year. But who are you going to grab here with 103? Is it Odunze?
Yeah, it's Rome Odunze here.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll follow up with, I guess this feels like probably the first pick in the draft that is unexpected and probably not just going to follow consensus, but I'm going to take Xavier Worthy. Feels like he's kind of becoming my guy. I was big on him before he ran the 40, and now I'm probably a little bit scared because I think it could rise up his cost. But I think age-adjusted production, he ticks the boxes. I keep seeing people call him a deep threat. I think if you think he's only a deep threat, go and watch how they used him at Texas. It was a fairly low ADOT, and it was a case of get the ball in his hands and let him go. So yeah, I'm really excited about Worthy. I feel a little bit uneasy taking him at 104. I think if this was a league, I'm probably looking to trade back and maybe move back a few spots and get an additional asset. But yeah, I really like the player and happy to grab him there. Russ?
I was so annoyed when he ran that 40.
Yes.
Because there was no chance of him sneaking by anything after it. I'm with you. And I'm hoping the part of me, because right away when he broke that record, everyone was like, yeah, he's fast, but John Ross. Yeah, he's fast, but Henry Ruggs. Yeah, and I'm like, yes.
It's so stupid.
Keep believing that. Keep it.
So stupid.
Well, it's
people a false equivalency. Just yes, but do that. Discount him because he's fast, please. I will take him everywhere. So honestly, in one QB, you're probably one pick off for me with Worthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've seen, is it the 16 fastest 40 times of wide receivers at the combine? None of them have got 1,000 yards or something stupid like that.
It doesn't matter. They're different players. You can't compare Xavier Worthy to John Ross and Tyquan Thornton and whoever else. They just don't have the same production profile. They don't have the same skill set. It's just different. To say that a guy is say his profile is worse because he broke the 40 time is, I don't understand that line of thinking at all.
No, I agree with you both 100%. As I said, I'm really excited about the prospect. But so you hinted that Worthy would be one pick away for you, Russ. So I presume there's a guy that you're smashing here at the 105.
Yeah, man, I don't care that he's a tight end. I don't care that we've been burned by Kyle Pitts. I don't care about any of that. Brock Bowers is that guy. This dude is not making it outside of the first round. I almost don't care what team he goes to, because you are taking Brock Bowers to be a centerpiece of your offense. He's that good. And he's probably the one person I would take. Like I said, when you said you trade back a couple of spots, in my head, I'm like, I don't know how many you can go back. Because I'm curious to, see if Matt, what would have happened if, actually, no, because if you took Bowers at 4, I was taking Worthy at 5. So he wasn't falling very far. So like I said, you don't really have that much further back to go, but I'm taking Bowers here. And that is pretty easy for me. I have him above now my next tier of wide receivers, which Worthy is at the top of that next tier, but he is that next tier.
And do you have any concerns? I've talked a little bit about how expensive he would be in kind of tight end positional ranks if you're taking him as a top 5, top 6 pick. Do you now think that if you're doing that, he is in a startup, say a top 3 dynasty tight end now at the position?
Oh, he probably is. Yeah, easy. Just think about what would have happened if Laporta didn't have the season he had. Bowers may have walked into being the tight end 1. Because
Trey McBride maybe, but
yeah. we have this like, or we had before the second half of last season, this gap of young wide receivers where there was no one that was willing to really push their way ahead of the Mark Andrews and Hawkinsons and all of that. And then, McBride comes on, and then Laporta kept this doing what he did for the entire season. Dawson Knox I almost said Dawson Sox got hurt. That would be funny. Dawson Knox got hurt, and Kincaid was able to show out. So it's not as prominent now thinking about Brock Bowers' rankings, but, before the season started, we were making the joke about who the tight end one is, and the answer was Brock Bowers. And I'm still there. He probably is a top 4 or 5 without thinking about it. And the more of a tight end premium you put on your league, that, the earlier he will rise through other positional ranks. You put all my Trade Addicts leagues are 0.75 premium. I think he jumps into the equivalent of like a mid to high end wide receiver 2. Like he's probably around that wide receiver 15 area in just overall ranks, because that's the hype. The hype on him should and is more than the hype on Kyle Pitts was. And, the world went a little too far on the hype on Kyle Pitts, but like,
we'll see about that.
It won't get there again. Oh, he'll be great this year, but that's not really the point. But yeah, no, Bowers probably, when you start bringing in tight end premiums in a startup, wouldn't be shocked to see him as a 3rd, 4th round pick.
Yeah. No, it feels like that's kind of where he's going, just based on where he's going in rookie drafts as such. And Matt, are you getting on board with Brock Bowers up in those sort of ranges of valuation?
Yeah, I think top 5, top 6 is pretty fair. I think Laporta, McBride, Andrews, I probably have all in front of him at this point. And after that, I think it's a conversation. If you want to throw Kincaid, Kyle Pitts in there, if you still really want to hold up Travis Kelce into that top 5, 6 range. But right after those top 3, I think it's really a conversation. So if you want to have them at 4, feel free. In terms of like rookie drafts though, like I agree with Russ. If it's a premium, if it's 0.75, if it's 2.0, I guess maybe even if it's 1.5, I would probably have him in the same tier as those top 3 receivers. Like if you want to take the shot on the tight end over those 3 receivers, go for it. I probably wouldn't do it, but I think right here between those 3 and then Worthy and then the guy I'll take here at the next pick, Brian Thomas. I think you have him either, and probably in the tier for me, I'd probably with Worthy, Thomas, and Bowers, and that kind of tier after those top 3 receivers. But then in premium, I'd bump Bowers up to those 2.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
But do you want me to talk about Thomas a little bit?
Yeah, go for it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Thomas is a really exciting prospect. I think he's he isn't a lock, so to speak, as those top 3 guys, and maybe Worthy is, depending on the offense he goes to. I really think I go back and forth if I want Worthy or Thomas ahead of each other. Worthy, I just feel like he is the perfect like modern era NFL wide receiver, where we have defenses taking away the deep ball with these too high safeties, but obviously the speed, he can still get deep, and now you can use him on short and intermediate routes, and he can take a short slant 70 yards to the house. So he's just so versatile. But Thomas is right there with him as a prospect in terms of what he can do catching the ball. Like it's almost like there's no such thing as an overthrown ball with Brian Thomas. It's just his length, his massive catch radius paired with that deep speed, acceleration, and ball tracking. You throw the ball out in front of him, he's going to run and go get it. Reliable hands, a 75% catch rate. Good at great body control skill to high pointing the ball. He's pretty much everything you want him to be. He just, he doesn't have that like super elite year of production behind him, but doing what he did alongside a player like Malik Nabers is obviously impressive as well. So he's a cut below those guys, but he's still a very exciting prospect that I'd take right alongside Worthy and Bowers.
Yeah, I think if you were to say to me the one prospect in this draft that you can bank one thing they're going to do in the NFL, and I think it's Brian Thomas as that deep threat, big-bodied outside receiver that can go downfield and get the ball. I just don't know how much I've seen of him that makes me think he can do more than that. And it's like, if he does that, that's still very valuable, and probably more valuable to an NFL offense than a dynasty roster. but I don't know how much more I see in terms of that nuanced route running, that ability to, stem and separate from a corner, other than just be big guy, run fast kind of thing. Do you think I'm being harsh?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think he's not really a yak runner. Like, he's not going to get a ton after the catch. He really needs space to make something happen after the catch. So if it's going to be a short thing, it's going to be kind of a chain mover kind of role, right? Because he's kind of slow when he's transitioning from a receiver to a runner. But I do think he could run a 15-yard, comeback, 15-yard curl, something like that, and make moves that way. I don't think that's outside of his skill set. I just don't think we necessarily saw him asked to do as many of those things, because they had Malik Nabers working the middle of the field like that, right? So it's not something that we have direct evidence of, I would say, but I'm not sure it's outside of his skill set if he's able to develop that.
Yeah, and I guess the dream scenario is almost that DK Metcalf rookie year, where DK Metcalf came in and was basically asked, run a comeback, run a go, maybe sometimes run a post, and that was basically his entire route tree. And it's only after he'd spent time in the NFL that he was then asked to run a little bit more diverse routes. Brian Thomas can come in and be one of the best in the league at running that go, that comeback, and maybe the odd post in there kind of thing. I don't think he necessarily needs it. I just think for him to be a true elite dynasty wide receiver, he needs a little bit more to his game than just that kind of thing.
It's possible he's not like a super high volume guy, right? Like, that's really the biggest concern.
Yeah. Maybe he ends up as. Sorry, go on, Russ.
I think we're past already. Like, it's really tough because this is a great class. This really is a great class, and the fact that in a 1 QB we're still talking at pick 6 about a guy who can be a bit of a difference maker is a big deal, honestly. And yes, there are some ifs to his game and all of that, but like that's great for pick 6 in a 1 quarterback. And don't forget, if we are talking super flex, we're probably at 3 or 4 quarterbacks at this point for people like thinking super flex wise also. But all of that being said, we're past the point of, perfect. We're past the point of safe. No one is really actually safe. So like, I still think, just to put it out there, because I know we're at the point where we can start arguing over players. Well, this, well, that, and every pick that goes by, we're going to do it more and more. But I don't want anyone sitting here thinking that I thought people said this was the greatest class. This was so deep. This level of player at pick 6 is better than most players this late in other years. And that's how you have to, decide on whether you think a class is good or not.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't want to sit here and talk about hit rates. I leave that to Peter Howard. But like, realistically, at this point in a 1 QB draft, you're looking at what, 30% chance a guy becomes a consistent, reliable top 24 wide receiver, say.
Yep.
I think there's, I feel like you say this about every class, but there's probably a better chance that Brian Thomas has multiple top 24 seasons than 30%. So, I think that speaks to the depth of the class. Yeah. We're going to move on to the 107, but before we do that, if you are watching, you've not hit that subscribe button, it's the little button down below. We have got more rookie mocks coming. We've got the final positional previews and the sleepers dropping, and then of course we've got best ball content coming after the draft. But at the 107, I'm going to go with Troy Franklin. Feels like he's fought that favor a little bit. Obviously, he had that slightly hilarious gauntlet drill at the combine. It feels like that one drill has basically dinged his stock massively. But I still think he's a fantastic separator. I still think he's got great ball skills. I think he probably isn't going to be a 1A in an offense, but I think if you can stick with an offense as a 1B opposite an elite receiver, he could have some of the seasons like we've seen with Devonta Smith recently, where he can still be an elite fantasy asset despite not being that true kind of alpha number 1 wide receiver. So yeah, I'm really excited with him here. Russ, I can see you nodding along. Are you a Franklin guy?
Well, it's more the concept of what you were saying. Yeah, I mean, Franklin's good. Franklin's fast. Franklin will need to do more on his short and intermediate game to be fantasy relevant. I'm a little worried that he'll be one of those guys that's better for his NFL team than your fantasy team. But I love the guys like you were just saying, and you brought up the perfect example where it's like Devonta Smith was drafted and he had a pretty good rookie season, But then we're like, the Eagles are going to bring another wide receiver, and I'm sitting here like saying like, good, please. Like, not everyone is meant to be the alpha. Not everyone's meant to be the X type. And AJ Brown comes in, and Devonta's crushing it, and that is good for people. And I think we're at the point where pick 8, the guy I'm going to pick probably isn't an alpha either. But with someone stealing some coverage away, it'll open them up to do so many better things. So, like, I do like Franklin, but I also just love the concept of everything you were saying.
So you hinted at who are we grabbing here with the 108?
I'm going to take AD Mitchell. I almost convinced myself to go to a different position because clearly wide receivers are the way to go. But I think AD Mitchell is the last guy I would take here. The last, I should say, wide receiver I would take here before moving on to another position. I like him. He's a guy I don't think a lot of people are very high on him, but he's not a 1A to me. He's absolutely that 1B where he probably, again, has some stuff to work on and all of that stuff. But with a wide receiver on his team, like, if he has AJ Brown on the other side, let's just stick to the, comparison we were talking about. If he has that AJ Brown on the other side, it makes it a little easier for him to work his way into the NFL and to work on those things that he needs to do. And there are a few, but like, he has good hands. He's a good route. He's a goodish route runner. And that's the great start, because then it's learning the system and being able to work your way into the system. So this is a player I like. Doesn't feel like a sure thing, but still I like him more than moving on to the other positions at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like his best is as good as anyone's best in this draft class, quite frankly. My issue is that his best isn't at all consistent. It's totally. Very much a come and go, and I feel like some of his route running, whilst is impressive, sometimes it's slightly more for flash than actual, the means of creating separation. But
I love the idea of him being a 1B.
yeah, very true. Matt, with the 109, who are we gonna go with here?
Yeah, I feel like I want to break open the running back tier here, but I don't want to get sniped either. It's just a mock draft.
Love it.
I know it's just a mock draft, but I don't want to get sniped with my wide receiver. No, it's fine. I'll just do it. I will go ahead and take Trey Benson here. He's the safest of the running back prospects, I think. I feel like if there's going to be a running back that goes in, the second half of round 2 in the NFL draft, it's probably going to be Trey Benson at this point. He just, he doesn't really have any massive flaws. Like, you can question his vision a little bit. You can question his decisiveness once he decides which hole to take. But he checks the speed box. He checks the sides box. He catches passes. So he does all of those things. He's just not the most exciting running back prospect. He's definitely not my favorite one. But the wide receivers coming up here all have their question marks. I'm not ready to jump into the quarterback range yet here for a 1 quarterback league. So I guess by default, we're taking the top running back, Trey Benson.
No, makes perfect sense. Now you've opened the running back door. I feel like I'm gonna jump in and join you. I'm gonna go and grab my running back one. I'm gonna grab Jonathon Brooks. I think that he's in my eyes the best running back in this class. I can clearly see him walking into the NFL. I wish we had a team that ran that old Texans outside zone scheme, just like Arian Foster used to run, because I feel like he could be an absolute beast in that. The NFL's developed a little bit since then, but I still think he's going to be, a very good, useful back. And okay, maybe he redshirts a year, maybe I miss him for the first half of his rookie year, but I still believe in the talent and think he's going to be at least a round 3, but hopefully round 2 pick in the NFL draft.
That's just I just don't want to deal with the injury, man. I totally think he is probably the best draft in the class, but like, when I take a running back, especially in the first round of rookie draft, like, I want to know I'm going to be able to start him like my rookie year or his rookie season, and I'm sure you will be able to. There's some talk that he's even going to be ready by week 1, but by the time we get to rookie drafts, maybe we have some more information about that, and I'll change my mind. But right now, I just don't want to deal with that injury off the top.
Yeah, I know he's going for the combine recheck. I can't remember if it's this week or next week, isn't it? So hopefully there's some good news comes out of that. But for me, if I'm taking him at the back end of this first round, my sort of philosophy is, look, if I'm taking this pick, I'm probably a contender. Hopefully my team is good enough to win games in the regular season to get to the playoffs without my rookie first rounder. And then I've potentially got the best back in the class when we get to the playoffs and moving forward. So that's where I'm saying I'm comfortable, but I'm probably a little bit less, probably slightly more risk. I'm trying to think of the opposite of averse.
Not risk averse.
I embrace risk slightly when it comes to these sort of later first round picks, and certainly chase for that upside. Russ, you're back on the clock. Are you gonna keep the running back run going, or may you drip into the quarterback room?
I am stuck on 3 people, and of course they're 3 separate positions. And that being said, that means I'm not going to take a quarterback if there's someone I'm going to feel close to wanting right now. And I just like wide receivers better than running backs, and I'm not letting this many running backs go in the first. So I'm going to go back to wide receiver, and I'm going to take Xavier Legette.
You son of a bitch. I knew it. I knew I should have taken him at 109. I freaking knew it.
Yes. This is like everything that you just said. It is exactly how I feel about. I'm going to stick with Legette. I think that's what it is. There's a range of outcomes for him, but at the end of the first, my team came in second place. This is almost luxury at this point. Like, you want this to work out, but it's not the worst thing in the world if it doesn't. And to quote the range of outcomes for this man from my friend Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies, it can go from Debo to Laviska Shenault. Like, that's the top and the bottom of his outcomes. And you definitely don't want the Laviska Shenault outcome. But I think on an NFL team that that's willing to be more creative than the team he was on in college, South Carolina, it gives a better chance for him to show what he can do. He is versatile, and that's the direction the NFL is going. And just because he was on a team that wasn't willing to really let loose, hit the real versatility of it, I don't think that's a worry we have in the NFL very often anymore. So at this point, at the end of the first, I'm willing to take a shot on a guy that gives himself a very good chance to always be on the field and always have the ball when he is on the field, because you could get it to him in multiple different ways.
I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on this, Matt, because I'm just not a Legette believer. I get that there's a potential there, and I can see a world where he pans out, but I just can't spend a first round pick on a guy that did nothing for his first 4 years. And I get that we can say, he played quarterback in high school, and, there was transition to the college and learning a new position, and there was some injuries early in his career and stuff like that. But this guy had like 35 receptions in his first 4 years in college. Like, I just can't get on board with a guy like that. But it sounds like you're a Legette believer as well then, Matt. So are you, what am I missing?
Look, I'm hesitant for sure. Like, I the numbers I have are 42 combined catches his first 4 years. 3 of those 4 years were less than 10. And then all of a sudden he just busts out in his 5th year with 71, 1255, and 7, third most receptions in the SEC. But man, the profile was just so exciting. Like, the floor is lava. Don't get me wrong. I think the floor is absolutely lava here, but the ceiling is so tantalizing that 98th percentile weight adjusted speed score, the 90th percentile burst score, a 305 yards per team pass attempt in the SEC, the best yards per route run number against man coverage in the SEC at 3.96, 73% catch rate. Like, I don't know what he was doing those first 4 years, but that 5th year is just too exciting for me pass up. I think the Debo comp is fine because he gets a lot of that short area stuff. I don't think he has the same kind of like snap at the top of the route stem as Debo does, where Debo can just do those quick outs and ends all day. I don't think he necessarily has that in his game, but it is odd that most of his stuff is either super long or super short. Right. But he, I just like, I guess not the same as Brian Thomas, but similarly, if you could throw him in the NFL, have him just run verts, curls, comebacks, and then also, again, another guy who can take a short slant to the house from anywhere on the field like that. Those numbers are just really, really exciting to me. But I mean, the first 4 years, like if you are strictly looking at a production profile and there's like no signal for a 5th-year breakout at all, you could really go any direction. So you could just be lighting your first round pick on fire. But if you are a strong contender and you hit a home run with this pick, I mean, that's worth it. I'm with Russ on this one. So I was really, I was going to take him instead of Benson, but I thought nobody's going to take Legette in the first round. And then Russ, of course did that.
So who are you going to take here to round out the first round?
I don't want any of these guys now. Can I?
I'll trade up.
I mean, there's a couple of smart picks here that I don't really care for. I guess I think probably consensus pick is going to be Ladd McConkey. So I'll just take him here. He's a super great route runner, all that kind of stuff. He's a little bit of a confusing profile as well, though. If you start bringing in his efficiency metrics, right? Like a yards per team pass attempt below 1.63. Like that's just like average you want there is like 2.5, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Rich, but like, so Malik Nabers is like a 3.8, something like that. So 1.63 is not super great, but then you can go back and say, well, he didn't run a route that often, right? As Georgia, they're not throwing that much out there. So he's a really tough prospect to evaluate, because then on top of that, he has a 3.26 yards per route run. So like those two numbers are typically like, one is pretty close to the other one. This time they're just completely opposite of each other. So again, it's another player that could go either direction. If he's given a high volume role, I think he has the route running skills to get open on a consistent basis. It's just, is he going to get that much more opportunity in the NFL than he did in college?
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's weird, isn't it? You look at him on a per route run basis, he looks like a star. You look at him on a overall team offense basis, he looks a bit like an also ran. So I kind of feel like for him to be that fantasy star at the next level, we're basically projecting him to get a bigger workload in the NFL than he did in college in terms of route participation, stuff like that. And that always scares me when you're making that bigger projection. But as you said, back end of the first round, it feels like this is a point where it's worth that risk, because there is the talent, the athleticism is absolutely phenomenal. So I fully get on board with that. Well, before we dive into the second round, we're going to rattle through these next 2 rounds a little bit quicker. But before we do that, if you haven't yet got a copy of my rookie guide, there is 118 player profiles. There is all my ranks, my rookie models, so much content, the riskometer, everything like that. You can hit the join button below from as little as $2.99 or $3.99 and get yourself a copy of the lovely rookie guide. So I am up now at the 201. I can't believe I'm the guy to take the first quarterback, but I'm going to take Caleb Williams. Look, I'm the guy that says I don't value quarterbacks in one QB. I'd never spend a first round pick on a quarterback. I've not, because I've drafted him with a 201. But look, Caleb Williams, elite prospect. He's been talked to death. I don't need to talk about him much, but yeah, it feels like at this point that is good value to grab him at the start of the second round. So Russ, you're now up with the 202.
Yeah, and like I said, I would have done it if you didn't. Now, he, like I said before, when I took Legette, it was between a quarterback, Legette, and the guy I'm going to take now. And I just didn't want to take a quarterback because it's one QB. And you're absolutely right. You didn't take one in the first round, so you can still stick by that.
Who are you taking?
I am going to do again, I think this is the right place for the player, but I'm going to do it for the absolute wrong reasons, because even though I'm a huge fan of saying #Team Clemson big wide receiver, like picking players because they played a position at a school is really just not the right reason to do it. But give me Wisconsin running backs, man. And maybe Braelon Allen isn't the prototypical Wisconsin running back. But, we've seen so many good running backs come out of Wisconsin. Usually it's because they just build really good offensive linemen up there. But, this seems like the right place to take your shot at a running back, and he's mine. And I don't really have the strongest feeling towards the player himself. But again, second round, your hit rate still here feels better than it should at the beginning of the second. But yeah, I feel good. I feel goodish enough to take him over my next wide receiver, and definitely over the QB2 at this point. I'm not taking a QB2 at the 202.
Yeah, and like I said about Brian Thomas, it feels like with Braelon Allen, there's a clear, distinctive role. He can be an early down workhorse, get short yardage work. Okay, might not be much more than that, but hopefully can be. But at worst case scenario, he's Gus Edwards plus, isn't he? So yeah, I think there's a nice little value there, and certainly while he could be useful. Matt, you're back on the clock now.
Yeah. Man, I could go a couple different ways. I after the I want to talk about one player, but I'll wait until I don't think I need to take him yet. So I'm going to wait. I will go ahead and take my current running back 2 in the class, and that is a player who was the most efficient running back on a per touch basis in the 2023 season. And I think his ADP is probably much lower than this, but I'm going to go ahead and take Mr. Crap, I lost my notes already. Where did I go? Geez, I'm having a complete brain fart. Oh, Marshawn Lloyd. Geez, 8.2 yards per touch, the most efficient running back in college football. 4.46 97th percentile speed score. Look, he's the same weight as Aldric Estime, but 4 inches shorter, and Aldric Estime ran a 4.72, and people seem to still like him quite a bit. So I like Marshawn Lloyd quite a bit. I think you can question his vision a little bit. I think you can question his receiving production. Only 13 receptions in 2023, 18 in 2022, but we saw him do a little bit more of that work at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine, and look fine doing it. So I don't have too many criticisms of him, honestly. My co-hosts on the DLF Dynasty podcast, they kind of disagree with me here on Lloyd. I think Dan even said he has him down at like running back 8. To me, that's far too low for a guy as athletic with his size. So it's going to depend on him landing in getting on a good landing spot like all of these running backs, I think. But I'm happy taking him here.
Well, he's also my running back 8, so maybe we won't be friends after this. But
man.
He was my.
I jumped the gun on that.
Any process went into it. I'm like, this dude's name's Marshawn. I'm in. Let's go. That was my process before anything started.
You've heard of school scouting. Now let's go name scouting. Does that mean a Jew is your wide receiver 1, Russ?
I mean, Marvin Harrison. I mean, you have a full name right there. I mean, that's
fair. Right, I'm going to go with the 204 now. I'm going to go and grab Keon Coleman. Look, I'm not the biggest Keon Coleman guy.
I hate him.
There's a lot of faults in his production profile. I don't love him on film, but there's something that it was one of these guys. I've said this a couple of times on the show. Basically, it's one of these players. I'm sitting there writing down film notes whilst I'm watching him, and every single thing I'm writing is like, don't like negatives. And then it got to the end, and I was like, actually, he's kind of all right. Like, I know I've said everything bad about him, but actually he's an all right player. And I think his film speed is a hell of a lot better than his time speed. I don't have concerns over the combine, which I know a few people do, but I don't know about the route running. I don't know what he's going to be at the next level, but look, I'm shooting for upside in the second round, and I think there's a good athlete in there that could potentially turn into something. So yeah, I'm gonna take the risk and fly here.
If nothing else, you're getting draft capital, right? He's gonna get probably second round draft capital. So like, I mean, it's fine. I just don't like the player.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I was gonna take him if you didn't, because I from everything I've been seeing and reading, he's going to get drafted in the NFL early enough to be warranted to be drafted here in our rookie drafts. And I would be very thankful that I'm in a lot of leagues, because I won't be thrilled about taking him, because I'm also not the biggest fan. But if a team spends early second draft capital on a wide receiver, chances are they're going to let him play. They're going to put him on the field. So I get it. Yeah.
Let's all just hope that he gets drafted by the Chiefs or the Panthers or something like that, where
Let someone else take him.
The hype can go and everyone else can draft him, and then none of us have to draft him because sounds like none of us like him. But Russ, who are you going to take here with the 205?
Again, I'm sitting here between the player I want to draft, the player I think I should draft. I think I'm going to keep. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to take the player I want, and I don't care if it's the wrong answer. I really like Devontez Walker.
Ugh.
And mid-second feels fine to just throw a dart at a guy you like. And I know this is early. It absolutely is. I probably could have gotten him in the 3 picks that I take next. I don't care, but I want him here. I want him now. And I want to just be able to say that I think he's good. And I think he will get, round probably 3 draft capital. But still, that makes me happy enough to think that he'll have a shot in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan of Walker. I feel like I'm alone on that slightly. Analytically, he ticks a lot of boxes for me. So yeah, I like it here. Matt, you're back on the clock.
Wait.
Yeah,
did you shake your head no when I said his name? Is that what I saw?
I'm not a Walker fan. I think he does some things really well. But I can go into a lot more detail if you want, but he's just not my style of player, not enough volume, not he's just another one of these, like how many like big, fast, straight line guys do we need in this class, right? To me, he's just another one of those and is a little bit worse in certain other aspects of his game, I guess I would say.
I think I'm going to step in and defend Tez because I think he's got a little bit more route running wiggle than just calling him big straight line fast. But I
don't think he has much. I think his speed is build up speed. He's that long strider, so it's deceptive speed, right? And I just think I question his lateral agility and change of direction skills. Like you can see like rounded off routes. You can see struggles to separate consistently. Like he's just so raw and a 58% catch rate. This is my biggest problem with Devontez Walker. If Drake May is as good as everyone says he is, then the 58% catch rate has to be on Walker more than it is on Drake May. Right?
Yeah,
that's a bad catch rate.
Yeah, I think his biggest problem is that he takes an extra step in and out of routes, and I think that can get cleaned up. And I think if that does get cleaned up, I think he will be a much better, much superior route runner than he was in college. But you also wonder if the college coaches would probably try to get him to stop taking that extra step in that route. So, yeah, I think there's a world there where you could see it. But
you can't
so go on.
Like they say, you can't teach speed. So he's got this. He's got that going for him. I'm just gonna take. This is probably too early too, and you guys probably. Am I up again? Is it me?
Yeah, you're up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to, my rule, I don't even have any 1 quarterback leagues anymore, but if I did, my rule for taking quarterbacks in the 1 quarterback league in this draft would be as soon as Caleb Williams is gone, try to get Jayden Daniels, because in a 1 quarterback league, I want my quarterbacks to be difference makers. And I think as good as Caleb Williams is, he's not going to make an impact on the ground with his legs. And Jayden Daniels clearly is. He can carry the offense both as a passer and a runner. You can say what you want about his middle of the field accuracy, but the deep accuracy, there's almost no one better. He had 64% on target rate on throws 21 or more yards downfield, which is ranked second in FBS. He was first in quarterback rating, first in PFF rushing grade, second in their passing grade. The biggest mark on him and is that pressure to sack rate at 20.2%. Like that's not good at all, of course, but I think it's a little bit different talking about a guy with the escapability of Jayden Daniels does. He doesn't really commit turnovers. He has a 1.6% career turnover worthy play rate. It's the lowest in the class. You have to go back and forth with the 50-year senior thing. Why didn't he have a massive season before this season? All that kind of stuff. I get it, but like this season was just too good. And if I'm taking a shot at a rookie quarterback in a 1 quarterback league, I want somebody who can immediately be a top 5 quarterback. And I think Jayden Daniels has that in his range of outcomes in his rookie season, depending on where he goes. Now, if he goes to New England, not as excited about that. If he goes to Washington, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic point, and I completely agree with you. I've got May over Daniels in Superflex ranks, but I'd absolutely be taking Daniels over May in 1 QB just because, as you said, you got to chase for that upside and shoot for that top 5 ceiling. I'm going to go back to the running back. Well, I'm going to go and grab Bucky Irving. Feels like he's fallen a hell of a long way post combine.
That is spicy.
lower weight adjusted speed scores and all that kind of things. But if you look at PFF, their new gas metric, his on-field athleticism is phenomenal and it's elite. And I still believe that that's more accurate than running a 40-yard dash at the combine. So I think he's a guy that great receiver, great route runner, electric in space. And I think worst case scenario, he's a satellite back, a 1B to a bigger body lead back. But I think there's a world where he could carve out a bigger role. So I'm very excited to grab him here in the middle of the second round. Russ, you're back up with the 208.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the last running back I think I might actually care about. There's one more guy, but it has absolutely nothing to do with what he does as a player, more of where he went, because I already made the joke that I like Clemson. But that's not who I'm taking now. I'm going to take Blake Corum. Very similar to, everything about Allen, where, besides the fact that the idea of workhorse running backs are sort of going away, Blake Corum doesn't really, fit that outfit anyway. But again, you're probably not looking for a workhorse running back at the 208. And I think Corum can walk in and have a role. Just being the running back from the Michigan offense that he was in should give him decent enough draft capital. He did well enough, and everybody likes the little cannonball, the 5'8" dude who could just barrel you over. Everybody, if you're old enough to remember Maurice Jones-Drew and that kind of stuff. But so I think he'll be able to walk in. He'll get on the field immediately. He's not going to be a fantasy star by any means, but again, at the 208, I don't think you're looking at that. And he's the reason that's the reason I almost didn't take him, because there are one or two guys at a different position I think might still be able to just you'll feel better in your starting lineup. But I think Corum deserves to go by now, so I just took him anyway.
Yeah, it feels like a safe, non-sexy pick, but
yes,
yeah, as you said, it's kind of take your pills and move on as such. But Matt, you're going to go 209.
Yeah, I'll go to running back as well. My running back 4 in the class is Jaylen Wright, 5'11", 210. Just above average athleticism, contact balance. You see defenders just bounce off of him. See him drag and shed arm tackles. The pass catching profiles again a little bit concerning. He didn't really get involved as a pass catcher until the final season, but he does look natural doing it on his limited opportunities. So yeah, I just think he has a slightly better profile than someone like Corum for me.
Yeah, back to that, athlete, weight adjusted speed score, big guy, run fast. Hope that he can transition to the next level. Well, I'm going to go and break the running back trend. I'm going to go tight end here. I'm going to go Jatavian Sanders. Look, didn't have the best combine, but I think in terms of route running, in terms of a big-bodied guy that can work down that seam, I think he's so underrated. And if it wasn't for Brock Bowers, I think there'd be a hell of a lot more hype about him. I think he's a fantastic player who could be a steal in fantasy drafts in the next few months or so. Rush, you looked upset. You were a Sanders guy.
Yeah, I like him, but again, where we are in the draft, the kind of players that are being drafted right now, I think we're in prime Jatavian Sanders, area. Like, this is where he will fitting where he'll be drafted in the NFL, because I still think he's good enough that he'll probably get taken in the second, maybe third if people just don't feel like drafting tight ends. But I think after how well the draft class last year, I think we'll see NFL teams biting a little bit. And I think Sanders will absolutely benefit from that, because I think he's pretty clearly the tight end too. So, to me, that's just, even if you're not super into the player, the profile, the prospect, and everything will fit with, this is probably who should be drafted in your rookie drafts right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And who are you now going to take with, what are we, 211 now?
I'm going to go back to the wide receiver because, quarterbacks, I'm pretty much done for this. Drake May's good, but everyone's been saying so far, he's not really the kind of guy that you take in a 1 QB around now. So I think I'm going to take Malachi Corley here. Another guy who versatility, comes into play. And right now, again, in our rookie drafts, that's really what you're looking for. We're not at the point where we're throwing darts yet. We're at the point where we're getting players who are who should find their way onto the field and somewhat often, and guys who can get the ball multiple ways will be on the field more often. And I still think that's where we are with Corley. I think he will find his way onto the field plenty, and he's definitely not somebody you can say, well, he's just a deep ball guy and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot more need for that short and intermediate than there is for just deep anyway, and Malachi Corley fits that, so I like him here.
Yeah, I think he's probably more landing spot dependent than most, just because he's that type of player that's going to need those manufactured touches. So I think if he gets good draft capital, that's almost a team saying, we know what he is, we're going to draft him and we're going to use him. If he was a day 3 prospect, there's no way I'm touching him, because I don't think that would warrant a team making him a centerpiece of their offense as such. I think as long as he gets that day 2
then
capital,
he turns into that 3rd round dart throw that we'd speed through when we get to the next round. But like, again, if he gets that day 2 anywhere in day 2, it could be the last pick in the 3rd round and I'll still be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, perfect. And then rounding out the 2nd round, Matt, who are you going to finish up with?
I'm going to take the running back 5 in my rankings, but the running back 1 in my heart here at the 212, and that's Ray Davis. I know he's old. I know he played for a million years in college. I know he's 24 years old. I think maybe he's going to be 25, like in the middle of his rookie season. I don't care. I just love him so much. He's just such a powerful runner, great vision, footwork. You talk about the bowling ball with arms and legs. This is the guy with the low center of gravity and elite contact balance. And the craziest stat I heard about him recently is that he carried 33% of scrimmage yards in 2023 for Kentucky. A third of the team's yardage. Like that, he can carry the load if you want. Go watch his game against Florida if you want to see just like an absolute masterclass in the running back game. 15.6% best season reception share. He's going to catch the ball for us. He's just old, and he's probably not going to get day 2 draft capital. But if he does, and he lands in a spot like Dallas, can you imagine? It's just going to be great. And this guy was homeless at 12 years old. He made himself. I just love his story. I love everything about Ray Davis. And everybody is like taking him in the mid late 3rds. I can't let him fall out of the 2nd round. I'm going to have a lot of Ray Davis, I think.
Yeah, but also, sorry, just to help Matt's argument right here, because like right away Matt went like, but the age. But the real thing with dynasty running backs is like you want them their first contract anyway. That's all that really matters.
Exactly.
So you'll get your first 2 years out of him, because especially if he does go 2nd, 3rd round to a team that needs a running back, he's getting implanted and used immediately. And of course, again, draft capital is going to matter a lot of it. But like, if he ends up in Dallas, like, wheels up, man. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't read the story, go and give it a read, because it is fascinating. As you said, his background is absolutely phenomenal to get to where he is now. Right, we are going to do a 3rd round, but we're going to fire straight through. So I'm going to go for a player and then maybe like a sentence on each if we can. I'm going to start out the 3rd round. I'm going to go Jalen Polk. I think limited ceiling, but good route runners with that sort of ability, I think, are going to carve out a role in the NFL. Russ?
I'm going to keep going with my multi-use kind of players, and with Roman Wilson. Wide receivers in a run-first offense in college, it's tough to figure out what they're going to be. But again, we're in the 3rd round. You take your dart throws, and I think this is a pretty good one for where we are.
That makes complete sense, Matt.
Well, everybody's hunting for the next Puka Nacua, Tank Dell, all that kind of stuff. I don't think we necessarily have one in this class, but if there is, for me, it's Ricky Pearsall. He's the highlights. All you want to talk about the highlights, I get it, but he's just so solid all the way around. You can use that gritty word if you want with him. He just knows how to get open. I think he's a savvy route runner, and I don't know how much draft capital he's going to get, but I think he could be a day 1 slot starter pretty easily for an NFL team.
No, makes complete sense. I'm going to go and grab choice. I'm going to go and grab Aldric Estime. I think I don't love the prospects, as you said, big body, slow, but I think he's going to get capital, and there is a world where he's, as I said earlier, big body, short yardage, could carve out a role. Russ?
I'm going to take the running back I alluded to, which along with what Matt said, is more like number 1 in my heart, and I'm going to go Will Shipley. He's only 5'11", but he's still he's 210. Like, he's a big dude, but like, he catches the ball, and that's really what we want. We want that guy that could be the pass catcher plus, and draft capital is going to matter a lot. I think for Shipley for sure. But again, mid-third round, give me a dude that's going to catch the ball, and I'll feel good about it. Yeah,
absolutely. Matt?
I'll take the third Washington wide receiver, Jalen McMillan here. I don't know how much we can necessarily take from his final season. In his junior season, his production was almost equal to Rome Odunze. In fact, he actually had 2 more touchdowns than him. And then his final season here was really hot out of the gate. First 3 games, got that knee injury, and then he came back, but not maybe necessarily as strong as we would have liked. So I feel like somebody's going to get a nice steal at slot receiver if they take McMillan in the NFL draft.
No, like it. And I'm going to go and take Jacob Cowing. I'm not convinced about him as a prospect. I think there are flaws, but he pops analytically. There's some stuff there. So
he's so quick.
Yeah, and there's traits that you can see translating to the NFL, definitely. So I'll take a fly here, Russ.
This is like at my borderline of like close your eyes, throw a dart and see where it lands. Before we get to that, though, part of me, like, this is going to be tough because a lot of it's going to matter about what the NFL says. But like along the lines of what Matt was saying for quarterbacks and everything, like Michael Penix can fit that. And if he gets drafted, like he shouldn't be drafted in the first round at this point. And also being 37 years old already is going to be a little tough for him. But like, I think I'm going to take Penix here. And with the huge asterisk of if he doesn't get drafted to the third round of the NFL, then this was a wasted pick. But, we're now. And while Drake May and even McCarthy are better quarterbacks than Penix is, Penix has the ability to do better for fantasy. And that's what we care about right now.
Man, like I'm shocked by that. Sorry, go ahead. It's your show.
I was basically going to echo what you said. Yeah, I'm struggling to see him over someone like May. I think May's athleticism is so underrated, and I think that he's going to have the rushing production to be fantasy relevant, even if he's only an average pocket passer. But
yeah, Penix ran that fast 40, but he's a statue. Like I don't know. Like we made this predict, not that we didn't, miss on Stroud's projection for his ceiling as a passer, right? But like we did this thing with Stroud. It was like, oh, he ran a lot in that one Georgia game, so he's probably going to do it in the pros. I just don't think that that's in Penix to like take off and run. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think he's a take off and run kind of guy, but I think he has the ability to move around. Like I hate saying things to compare to other players, but and I'm not a tape guy at all, but watching him in the backfield felt a little Russell Wilson-esque, where he was able to evade enough and then make moves to the outside, where in the NFL, when there's a lot larger and faster guys chasing him, he'll probably run forward. It is really what that comes down to. Like I'm not really making the equivalent of, he's fast, so he'll run in the NFL. Again, I'm not looking to make the smart move here. The smart move absolutely would be to take May or McCarthy. But
I think
it's just kind of where I'm going because I thought it was fun.
The one thing I would say is that obviously he's had those horrendous injuries. He had, 4 season-ending injuries, the 2 ACLs. And there is an argument. You look at someone like Dak Prescott, where he had that broken, I can never remember his leg or ankle. And then he basically didn't rush for 2 years. And then last year he got his rushing legs back and started moving around more and started picking up more production on the ground. Maybe that's what we see from Penix, where he's clearly the athlete. He can run, but he just hasn't, because he's almost been protecting himself after those injuries. So
I guess I push back a little bit on that because those were in 2018 and 2020. The shoulder injuries were in 2019, 2021. So I don't know, 3 years removed from the injury, and we're not going to be running a little bit.
You guys are spending a long time pooping on my fun in this.
It's supposed to be a speed round, and here we are just crapping on Russ.
I didn't say I believed it, Matt. I was just trying to give some
all right. You're trying to help. I get it.
For Russ's picks, yeah. But now you've pooped all over Russ. Now it's your turn to.
Well, I feel like I'm supposed to just take May here and laugh at Russ, but I won't. We'll let May continue to slide a little bit. I'll take another running back that I really like, and I don't know, it might be a little bit high here as well. He might be a 4th round guy, but Dylan Laube. I don't know how to necessarily say that last name. I don't know if you guys know, but just probably the best pass catching back in the class. He's probably not going to be a full-time role. He's not going to, be an incredible talent as from a runner. I do think he has some positives there. It's really the pass catching we want to see from this guy, because he's out there running routes. He's running back. He runs back shoulder fades. He runs ins and outs. He runs like he's like a wide receiver out there. I felt like when I was talking about on the DLF podcast that we were talking about a wide receiver, but it's not. He's a running back, so that's why we like him.
Well, I'm annoyed because I can't believe I've been sniped at the back end of the 3rd round. That was who I was going here. I'm a big fan. Nice. I think, as you said, he's the best pass catching back out of anyone in this class, and I think that's going to get him on the field. And I think there's a world where he could carve out, a really nice NFL career as a, at least satellite back, hopefully a little bit more. Now I've been sniped. I'm going to go and basically, let's just go back to drafting off names. I'm going to go and grab Brendon Rice. I think, look, if his name was Jerry, he'd probably be going around earlier in fantasy drafts, let's be honest. I think he's competent. I think he does a lot of things well. I think he's got, as you'd expect from Jerry Rice's son, some nice nuanced footwork, and he's a bit of a technician. I don't know if the ceiling's there, but yeah, 3rd round. Let's take a flyer. Rush, your final pick.
I'm going to take Theo Johnson. Just because, again, I'm going to do things a little different. Just because, look at the amount of wide receivers drafted already. Like, I'm going to take a guy who has a wingspan taller than most people I know. Has the athleticism, and I just love me some Penn State pass catchers, even though their tight ends haven't necessarily really worked out in the NFL much lately. But I just think it's one of those situations where it's a position that is getting better in the NFL. Like, this is the first time in however long that we've had more than 2 usable fantasy tight ends. And I think it's because the NFL is figuring out a little bit what to do with them as offensive weapons. So I'm going to take a guy who's athletic, who's gigantic, and a mismatched tight end, even though that's insanely overused at this point. But again, like I think the percentage of him being used than the wide receivers and running backs we're taking right now is higher. So I'll take the guy I think that should be able to get on the field more.
No, big athlete at tight end is there's always worth a flyer, isn't it?
Yes.
And Matt, to finish us off.
And undersell, I think you guys are underselling his athleticism a little bit. He had a perfect 10.0 RAS until the agility numbers came in, and they lowered him to a 9.99. Right, so he is.
It wasn't perfect, so I wasn't going to bring
it up. Right, so I don't know. We'll see how he is. He's doesn't have the best hands and drops and that kind of stuff, but interesting prospect. For my last pick, man, I'm gonna take who is my hopeful tight end 3 in the class, and that's Johnny Wilson, who's actually a wide receiver right now. I just really hope they convert this 6'7" guy to tight end, and he gets on the field that way. Like for a guy that tall and that size, like his ability to sink the hips and get in and out of breaks and create some separation with his routes is impressive. So I'd love to see him get converted to tight end, and we might have another top 10 to 12 tight end in Dynasty if that happens.
It's fascinating, isn't it? He's probably the only player I think that would ever move from wide receiver to tight end, and it would boost his kind of fantasy stock. It feels slightly mad, but I agree with you. If he's getting drafted as a wide receiver, I've basically got no interest. If a team wants to convert him to tight ends, I'm very intrigued. But that finishes it, gents. Thank you ever so much for jumping on and joining us. Russ, before we disappear, remind everyone where can they find you? Where can they find your work?
No, I mean, I do too many things for too many people, but right now, FantasyCares.org is what it's all about. We are ramping up SFB season, so if you are not yet subscribed to the Fantasy Cares YouTube page, it's just at FantasyCares.org, which is pretty much our every single social media. So follow all of those stuff to get on board with all the awesome stuff that Fantasy Cares is doing.
And go and do it, because it is truly awesome. It is the best time of year once Fantasy Care stuffs and SFB starts kicking off properly. So very excited. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Remind everywhere they can find you and indeed find your work.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Always a blast. Always fun to talk to Russ, even if he doesn't want to talk to me. But all my stuff's over at DLF, of course, DLF Dynasty Podcast. I think I'm doing I don't know. I think I'm doing some kind of rookie article soon. Might be over there, but that doesn't matter. Go support FantasyCares. Do everything that you need to do over there before you check anything out that I do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, gents. So really appreciate you taking time, and always love chatting to you both. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and make sure you stick around, because we have got the Sleeper Show with Matt Thornton coming very shortly. But we will see you very soon.